Of course, again, this is like the early hours of the morning. And so I sent out a message telepathically. I said, oh, I thought you guys were supposed to be smart. I said, if you're going to try and contact me, at least give me some notice, or contact me in the daytime or something like that. And then I had this voice reply, and it said, "Can we observe you?" Right? And I thought, well, that's an odd request. Just, yeah, you could just observe me anyway, and I'd be none the wiser.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's nice of him to ask permission, I must say.
Yeah. Why are you asking me? Obviously, I didn't. That kind. I thought it was odd, but I didn't, think more than that. And again, right, trying to explain, like the contact that I had at 4:45 in the morning. This was the middle of the night. I'd only just woken up. I'm half asleep. And so I just flippantly just said telepathically, yeah, as long as there's not many of you. And my concern was to get this bottle and settle my son. And that would then go back to bed. And that was it. If they wanted to watch me go to sleep, fine. That's fine. So I got my son's bottle. I went back upstairs and I settled him down. I then thought, oh, you know what? I'm up. I may as well go to the toilet. So I went off to the toilet. When I opened the door, there stood in the hallway was my wife, and I jumped out of my skin. I wasn't expecting her there. That's why. And we both laughed about it, that I jumped so much. And we went to bed, and then, well, we started to get a little bit frisky. Now, this is sort of like middle of the week. I'm not going to go into details or anything like that, but this is the middle of the week.
It's a family show. That's all right.
Yeah, the middle of the night.
I'm only joking. Yeah.
No, exactly. So middle of the week, middle of the night. Absolutely no thoughts of anything like that going on. Anyway, so what then occurred to me was the request, "Can we observe you?" And I thought, have they pushed our buttons so then
yeah,
watch? So anyway, right, so what happened, being very conservative, mid-flow, this entity entered into my body. So it became a shared consciousness experience. It like if you can imagine a ghost hopping into your body, okay? And so this thing was inside me, and so I allowed it then to sort of take the reins, and I took a back seat. Now, just to explain, I felt like a bit of a fumbling teenager, not knowing what to do. I could feel what it was feeling. So, yeah, I put up with it for about 15 seconds and then pushed it out. Right, literally, with my mind pushed hard and got it out of my body. If I'd have known those were the parameters of being observed, I wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. But it happened. I now know without a shadow of a doubt that the science is wrong, and that two things can occupy the same space at the same time. I know it because I've lived it. Now, just to try and explain how it feels, if you are on the underground or the tube, and it's rammed, right? And there's only standing room, and you're sitting down, and then a complete stranger sits on your lap. That's how weird and awkward it felt. So that happened. Then, say, afterwards, I was lying there and got my eyes open. I can see the room. Close my eyes. I can see the room. I can see literally everything from the clothes on the floor to the cupboard to everything, the door, you name it. Open my eyes again, I can see the room. So I closed my eyes, and the next thing, it was like reality just unzipped. Just like literally a zip coming straight down, zip, and reality just bent or fell to the sides, kind of like peeling a banana. Just fell to the sides, and through came a head. Now this head was very large. It was shaped like a plectrum or a pick for people in America, for guitars. So it was that shape. It was green, and it had big black wraparound eyes. So they started towards the front, and they wrapped around the sides of the head, just vertically. Yeah, no, horizontally. And it had a little nose and a tiny little mouth. Now, this mouth was maybe 1 or 2 centimeters. It was tiny. It just looked like it didn't serve any purpose whatsoever. I say dark green skin, but all I could see was the head. And I was like, oh, wow, quick, communicate, make contact. So I was like trying to telepathically say, I'm Ambassador Aid for planet Earth, just whatever came to the top of my head. And this thing projected an image of a human smile. So the teeth and the lips, that was all it was, but it was big, and it was there, just this human smile. So it was trying to say thank you. And then it went. It didn't say anything more, and that was that. You see, when I raced to try and communicate with it, although I already had done earlier on, I'd only had like the image of the grey, and then I couldn't hear. I heard that, can we observe you? But I didn't know from where it was coming. But it was from this Mantid type entity. And so you've got to understand that these experiences are few and far between. So when you do suddenly have an experience, it's like, try and quickly, right, because I've got no, pardon me, on or off button as to, how or when or where I get these experiences, unless I consciously go out of body and go into a meditative state. So these are just happening around me. So yes, I had that experience, and then I decided what I'd do is I'd go online, and at the time there was a site that people seemed to know what they were talking about, and it was called Above Top Secret. And so I went on there, and I told my whole experience. Now the thing is, that site since was being sort of like infiltrated by a lot of CIA and other people that are trying to sort of like get people off the track, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was kind of like there was a fair amount of decent people on there. So I put in my experience, and I was just asking, well, this is what's happened. What do people suggest, and all this sort of stuff. And the advice I got was to cancel any agreement to being observed, and because you never know whether that's going to happen to your family, which is fair enough. So that's what I did telepathically. I sent out the message that absolutely under no circumstance were we to be observed without prior consent, my consent. And then I never heard anything again from them, never saw them again. And and I'm gutted really, because although it was an odd experience and I was shocked by it and I didn't expect it, it wasn't really a bad experience. I'd experienced what a negative experience was with the reptilian one. And this one was perfectly fine. It didn't feel bad at all. So I'm a little bit gutted by that one, but that's what can you do? You can't do anything. So I've tried many times putting out there the intent that I want to make contact and stuff like that. I think that's very important to do.